Hey guys, welcome to the free SQL course. In this course, we're going to focus on the actual structured query language syntax. So we're going to put away the fancy graphical user interfaces and we're going to get into the actual programming. So we'll be using PHP MyAdmin, which is a graphical tool, but we're going to be using the SQL shell to do pretty much everything except look at the actual rows that are being returned. Alright, so before we get started, I just want to remind you to subscribe with us, follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and if you're feeling really generous, donate a couple bucks so that we can keep making these free courses. Alright, so let's take a look at what we'll be doing, what you'll learn. So we'll take a look at kind of an overview of SQL, talk about what it is, what it's used for, and then we'll start to look at how to create, alter, and delete databases and tables. How to query a database using multiple operators. We'll take a look at some of the various data types that are available. I'll show you how to insert, update, and delete records, how to join tables together, use aliases. We'll look at primary keys and foreign key constraints, and also indexes. All right, among some other stuff that'll get thrown in the mix. So what is SQL? It stands for Structured Query Language, and it's a special purpose programming language that was created to work with relational databases. Alright, SQL has been around for a very long time, but it's still relevant. It's the main method of interaction between an application and a relational database. Alright, and SQL is used anywhere from just small individual blogs to enterprise corporation level. All right, so it's very flexible and also very scalable. So some of the popular databases that use SQL. This is by no means the entire list. There's a lot more, but these are some of the more popular ones that you may have heard of. All right, first we have MySQL, which is extremely popular. That's what we'll be working with in this particular course. But you also have Postgres, which is another really popular relational database, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, SQLite, and then you have DBase, Hadoop, MaxDB, MariaDB, which is drop-in for MySQL, and OpenBase. Okay, so these are just some of the many relational databases that use SQL. Alright, so when we talk about SQL tools, there are dozens and dozens of tools. Some are dedicated to one specific relational database system, others are cross-platform. So these are just a few of the many. So the command line client, when you download, let's say MySQL, you get a shell program that you can log into through the command line, and you can start to create your tables and do all that. All right, then you have graphical tools like Adminer, which we'll be using, that give you an easier way through a graphical user interface to do that stuff, but also give you the option to use some kind of SQL shell. All right, and did I say we're using that? We're not using that. We're using PHP MyAdmin, which I'll get to in a second. Adminer and Firebird, the next one, are both cross-platform, so you can use these with MySQL, Postgres, and a bunch of other ones as well. MySQL Workbench is very popular. It's actually offered free from the official MySQL website. You can do diagrams and some really nice graphical stuff with that. PHP MyAdmin is a web tool that is offered on many cPanel hosts. So if you get a hosting account with HostGator or Bluehost or something like that, they usually offer PHP MyAdmin with their packages. All right, pgadmin 3 is a really nice desktop tool for Postgres. I do have a video on that if you want to check that out. SQL Pro is a Mac tool I don't know too much about, and then Heidi SQL I've used a couple times but never really got too much into it. Alright, so these are just some of the many tools that are available. Alright, so before we can actually dive in and start looking at SQL, you need to have some kind of SQL database installed on your server or on your local machine, whatever it may be. Now, what I would suggest is if you're just using, let's say, Windows or Mac, and you don't have a server that you actually want to set up, an easy thing to do is to use something like XAMPP or XAMPP. What that does is it gives you an Apache server, MySQL, PHP, and a bunch of other tools available on your local machine. All right, so you don't have to connect to a special server or anything like that. All right, that's what we'll be doing. If you want to download XAMPP, you can go to apachefriends.org, and it's cross-platform. It's available for Windows, Linux, and Mac. So I already have it installed. I'm not going to go through it, but I do have a video on how to get XAMPP set up and running on Windows. All right, it's actually very, very easy. So once you do that, you'll be able to open up PHP MyAdmin, which is a graphical tool to manage your server, your databases. So you can get to that with localhost/PHP MyAdmin. Now, when you first install XAMPP, you probably won't have a password for your root user, and you want to fix that. So what you can do is in PHP MyAdmin, if you click on user accounts, and you look at where it says root for the username and localhost for the host name, you probably have a no right here. If you have a yes, then it should be fine. Then you know you have a password. If you have a no, then let's click Edit Privileges, and then you want to click Change Password, and then just put in a password here and click Go. All right. Now, if you get booted out of PHP MyAdmin because you're not logged in, then what you need to do is go to your XAMPP folder. Oh, that's not it. We want to go to XAMPP and then go to PHP MyAdmin, and then this config file right here, config inc php. You want to open that up, and then just put the password that you chose in this field right here. This should be empty. Okay, you want to put it in there and save it and close it, go back, and you should be okay. So creating a database is extremely easy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're in PHP MyAdmin, and we could simply create a database through here, but that's not what we want to do. We want to focus on the SQL programming language. So we'll click on the SQL tab up here, and this is where we can actually run queries. All right, let me make this a little bigger. Okay, so what we're going to do is say create database, and then we want to name it. Okay, I'm just going to say test for now, and we're going to end all of our statements with all of our lines with a semicolon. So let's click go, and you can see we got an OK message, but just to check, we can click on databases, and there's our test database. All right, and while we're at it, I'll show you how to delete a database. To do that, you want to say drop database, and then whatever the name. Okay, if we run that, we get an OK message, and if we look, test is now gone. All right, so that's how you can create and drop a database. Now I'm going to create one just to work with throughout this course. So again, let's say create database, and this is going to be just a fictional company. I'm just going to call Acme. All right, so click go. Now we have our Acme database. Okay, so we have an empty database now, which isn't very useful because we have no tables. All right, so let's create our first table. To do that, we're going to say create table, and I need to make this a little bigger. All right, that should be good. So we want to say create table, and then we want to name it. So let's create one for customers. All right, and then what we want to do is in here we want to specify the fields that we want, or the columns. So I'm just going to space this out a little bit, and we know that we want an ID. So to create a column, you want to put the column name and then the data type. In this case, it's going to be an integer, so we want int. All right, and then we also want to make sure that the ID cannot be null. Okay, now we want to separate these with a comma. And the next field that I want is first name. Okay, now as far as the naming conventions for columns, this here I like to use camel case, which means that the first letter is lowercase, and then every word after that, the first letter will be uppercase. Okay, often you'll also see something like this. You'll see that we separate the words with an underscore. All right, so it's all preference. You could do whatever you'd like. Some people use partial case, which the first letter would be capital as well, but I'm going to stick to camel case. Okay, so we have a first name. Now for the data type, that's going to be what's called a varchar or a varchar, and that is just a string of characters. It could be letters, numbers, characters, whatever. And then we have to specify the max length, which is going to be 255. All right, and you could do lower. Obviously, a first name isn't going to be 255 characters, but just to be safe, I use 255 for pretty much everything. Okay, next we're going to have a last name, same thing. I believe that the rest of our fields are going to be varchar. Whoops. Okay, then we'll have an email. I might as well just copy this. Okay, so email. Then we'll have address. And let's do city, state, and let's do zip code. Okay, so this here will create the customer's table for us, but I want to do a couple things. One, we need to specify a primary key. Okay, a primary key is unique and is usually attached to the ID. So all we need to do to create this is just add on to the end here primary key, and then we want to specify the which column we want, and we just want to put that in parentheses, so it's going to be the ID. Alright, now there's one more thing I want to do, and that's setting the ID to auto increment. Okay, and what that means is that, let's say we enter a row and it has the ID of 5. Well, the next time we go and create a new row, a new record, the ID will be 6. It's going to increment by 1 by default. All right, you can change it to something else, but 1 is the default, and that's what's usually used. So what we want to do is just add on to this. We want to say auto increment, just like that. All right, so we're ready to create our table. Let's go ahead and click go. What's this? No database. Oh, all right. So we're actually not inside of the Acme database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this with Control C, and then go to databases, click on Acme, and then click on SQL. And now you can see we're in the Acme database. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now if we go to our Acme database, you can see now we have a customers table. Okay, if we click on that, we're not going to see anything here because we have no records in here, no rows. But if we click on structure, you can see everything that we just created. And you see the little key icon next to the ID because that's a primary key. All right, it's also set to auto increment, and you can see all the data types here as well. So we created our first table. Now I'm going to show you how to insert data into the table. Alright guys, so now we're ready to insert some data, and you can see here that we're in the Acme customers table. All I did was went to the screen and then click SQL. Okay, actually let's click on customers and then SQL. And when we're in this view, you can see we have all the columns over here that we can use for reference. Okay, so let's go ahead and insert some data. So to do that, we're going to say insert into customers. All right, and we want to specify the fields that we want to enter. So let's say first name. Basically, this is going to be everything except the ID. The ID is auto increment and will create on its own. Okay, so then what we want to do is say values, and then some more parentheses, and we want to put in our values. Okay, so we have, let's say for first name we'll do John, last name Doe, email, we'll say jdoe@gmail, address, We'll say 55 Main Street, and we'll say Boston. Okay, so this should insert the customer. Let's go ahead and click go. Okay, so notice it says one row inserted. If we click on browse, there you go. We have our John Doe customer. Okay, so what I want to do is insert a few more. So I'm just going to paste this in. Alright, so this is how we can insert multiple records at once. So we say insert into customers, and then we specify all of the columns, but we only specify these once, okay? And then we can add multiple records, and we're just separating them with a comma, and the last one gets a semicolon. Alright, so let's run go. Okay, so you can see it says 5 rows inserted, and if I click browse, you can see we now have a bunch of customers. So now I'm going to show you how to update a record, okay? So let's say that one of our users wants to change their email address. So what we can do is say update, and then whatever the table name, update customers, and then we want to use set. Actually, I'm going to put these on their own lines just to make it a little more readable. So we want to set email equal to whatever we want to set it to. Let's say we'll just say test@gmail.com. Okay, so we want to set email to that, and then we want to say where, which this part is very, very important, because if you don't include the where, then all of the customers' emails are going to change to this. So you want to specify this. We're going to say where ID is equal to 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so we get one row affected. If we go to browse, you can see the customer with the ID of 3, which is Kathy. Her email is now test@gmail.com. Alright guys, looking at our table, I want to show you how to delete a customer. Alright, so let's say that Derek is not a customer anymore, and he has the ID of 6. So what we want to do is go to our SQL, and we're going to say delete from customers. Again, the where part is extremely important. If you don't have this, it's going to delete all your customers. So we'll say where ID is equal to 3. Alright, so let's go ahead and click go. Okay, we get one row affected. If we look now, you'll see, oh, did I say 3? Oh, okay, I deleted the ID of 3. I meant 6, but that's fine. Same thing. So you can see that we deleted a customer. Alright guys, so before we get into selecting data and fetching data, I want to show you alter table. Alter table is used to do things like add columns to a table, delete columns, change the data type, things like that. Alright, so let's go to our, well actually let's figure out what we want to do first. So first thing I want to do is show you how to add a column. So we're just going to add one called test, or test call. So let's go to our SQL, and what we want to do is say alter table customers, and we want to say add test call. Okay, and we also want to specify the data type. Let's just say varchar 255. Alright, so let's go ahead and click go. Okay, so we got an OK message here. Let's click browse, and you'll see we have test call. Now everything is null because we haven't done any inserts with the test call included. Okay, and if we click structure, you'll see that test call is a varchar. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how we can change the data type for a column. So let's go and say alter table customers. Alright, now the syntax varies depending on what database you're using. We're using MySQL, so what we'll do is say modify. All right, but with other databases, you might see alter column. Okay, so let's say modify column. What were we changing? Test call, and we want to change that to an int, and let's just give it a max of 11 characters. Okay, put a semicolon there and go. Alright, now if we go to our table and test call, if we click structure, you'll see that it's now an integer with 11 max characters. Okay, so last thing with alter table is I want to show you how to actually delete a column. So we're going to say again alter table, customers, and we're going to say drop column test call. Okay, and now if we go back, now you'll see test call is gone. Alright guys, so now we're going to get into selecting data, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different types of queries, select queries that we can make. So we're going to start simple and then just move up. Okay, so first thing to do is the easiest select statement would be select all from customers. Okay, the asterisk is used as a placeholder for all columns. Okay, so let's click go, and you can see it just gives us all of the columns. Okay, now if we want to limit that, we can say let's select first name and last name from customers, and we click go, and that just gives us the first name and the last name. Now let's say we want to select a specific customer. So to do that, let's say select all from customers, and then we just want to use the where clause. So we'll say where ID is equal to 3. Okay, actually I don't think we have a 3 anymore. Alright, now we're using the ID because that's the primary key and because it's unique. Okay, so if we were to say select from where name or first name equals Bob or something like that, then it's going to find all of the Bobs. So if you have 2 customers named Bob, then you have a problem. Alright, so you want to use something unique in your where clauses. So let's go ahead and run that, and you can see that that gives us Mike. He has the ID of 2. Alright, so that's how we can select a specific customer. Now, what if we want to sort it? Okay, if we want a certain order. So what we can do is let's say select all from customers, and then we're going to say order by, and let's do last name. Okay, we run that, and you can see we get all rows, and it's by last name. Okay, it starts with the D and goes down to W. We can also change the sorting order. Okay, if we want, we can say descending, DESC, and click go, and now you can see it starts with Williams. Okay, and same thing, you can also do ascending, which does the same thing as the default. Okay. Now let's say that we want to return all of the different states. Alright, so we could do select state from customers. Okay, we click that, go, and now you can see it gives us the states. But what if we don't want duplicates? Okay, what if we just want one of each state? Well, for that we could use distinct. Okay, so we just put right here select distinct. Okay, we click go, and now you can see it just gives us one of each. Now there's some other select statements that I want to show you, but some of them have to do with integers, with numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter the table and add an age column. All right, so we'll go to SQL and let's say alter table customers, and then we want to add column age, which will be an int. Okay, so if we go to browse, now we have age, and just really quickly I'm going to add their ages through here. Okay, we'll say 23, 45, 33, 20, and let's say 64. Okay, so now our customers have ages. So let's go back to the SQL window and let's say select all from customers where age is less than, let's say, 30. Okay, so this is an operator, the less than, and I'll get to some of the other ones in a minute. So if we click go, you can see it's returning us John and Lillian, which are aged 23 and 20. So these are the customers that are under the age of what was it, 30. Okay, so there's different operators that we can use. As I just showed you, we use the less than, and of course we've used equal to, but there's actually a whole bunch. Okay, so you can see we have equal to. This here is not equal to, which you can also use in many different database systems. You can use exclamation equals, which means not equal to. All right, we have greater than and less than. We have greater than or equal, less than or equal, between, which will give us a range, which I'll show you in a minute, like, which will match a certain pattern. This is often used for searches. Okay, if you have a website and you want to be able to search articles or something like that. In will be equal to one of multiple possible values. We can use is or is not to compare to null. Is not distinct from, which is equal to value or both are nulls. And then we have as, used to change a field name when viewing results. All right, we have some examples over here, but I'm going to show you some examples. All right, so let's say we want the customers that are in age between, let's say, 22 and 40. All right, so what we can do is say select, we want to say select all from customers where, age, and then we want to say between, what did I say, 22 and 30. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. And it looks like the only one we have is John, who's 23. Let's actually do 40. Okay, we click go and we get Stephen, who is age 33. Okay, so that's how we can use between. So another one we can use is like. Okay, like will match some kind of pattern. So what we're going to do here is, let's say, select all from customers, and then we want to say where city like, and I forget what we have. I know we have Boston, so let's do %n, and let's see what that gives us. Okay, so what that's giving us is all of the customers where their city ends with n. Okay, because if we look at it, the %, this is a wild card. Okay, so that means that anything could be here, and then we need it to end with n. Okay, which Brooklyn and Boston, obviously that makes sense. Okay, if we put on and click go, now we're not getting Brooklyn anymore because it doesn't end with on. Okay. Now let's say that instead of just %n, let's do %n and then another %. And let's see what that gives us. Okay, so that's giving us 3 records, Boston, Brooklyn, and Yonkers. And the reason for that is that now we're putting a wildcard on this side of it. So basically this is getting any city that has the letter N in it. And you'll notice Yonkers has it. It's not at the end, but it's still showing up because we have a wildcard on both sides. All right, and then at the same time, we can also use not like. Okay, so if we put here, instead of like, we put not like, and then click go. Okay, now it's giving us Amesbury and Exeter because these cities don't have the letter N in them. Okay, so that's it for like. Now I want to show you in. Okay, in is also very helpful. What that does is it allows us to specify multiple values in a where clause, which can really shorten it up. All right, so let's say select all from customers, and then we're going to say where state in, and then we want to open up parentheses. Let's say New York and New Hampshire. Okay, and we'll click go, and you'll see that we're getting all of the customers that are from either New York or New Hampshire. Okay, the Massachusetts customers aren't coming back. All right, now imagine if you wanted to specify, 9 or 10 states. If you were to use just a where, it would be a long query. But using in, we can just specify them all inside of our parentheses. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about indexes. All right, indexes are used to speed up queries. All right, it's a pointer to data in a table. So an index in a database is very similar to an index in the back of a book. Okay, it's used to find data more quickly and efficiently. All right, users do not see indexes. They are just used to speed up search queries or searches. If in your website you want to be able to look up, let's say, users by an ID, you would put an index on that ID field. It would speed up things. All right, you only want to create indexes on columns and tables that will be frequently searched against. Okay, so you don't want to put them on every single column or table. Okay, so let's say that in our application we're going to want people to search customers or admins to search customers by city. So we want to add an index on the city column. So let's go to our SQL here. So let's say create index, and then we want to give a name to it. Let's just call it C index. And then we want to say on customers, and let's say city. Now we're going to ignore that X for now. So let's click go, and now we should have an index on the city column. So now if we go to structure and we look at city, you'll see we have this little key icon, which means that we have an index on it. All right, let's make sure we can still select data from it. Okay, so if we say select city from customers, all right, and the search is going to be much more efficient and faster. All right, to remove an index is very easy as well. So let's say drop index C index on customers. Okay, if we go ahead and run that and we go back to structure, you'll see that city no longer has an index. All right, so we've gone over quite a bit, pretty much all of the fundamentals of selecting data from one table. Okay, so what we want to do now is create some other tables and create a relationship between them. And then I'll show you how we can actually join tables together for select queries. All right, so what we'll do is I'm going to paste this stuff in because it's stuff that we've already done. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a table called products. We're going to have an ID, which will be auto increment. It has a name and a price, and then a primary key of ID. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so now you can see we have a products table. So we're going to create another one called orders. So the orders table is going to have an ID, primary key, auto increment, and then you'll see we're also going to have an order number, which is just going to be just a made-up number that we create, and then product ID and customer ID. These are going to be foreign key fields. All right, what that means is that this product ID column is going to match up to the products table ID, and then this one will match up to the customers table ID. Okay, now we haven't defined our foreign keys yet, but I'll do that in a second. All right, and then you'll see we just have age we don't need. I don't know why that's there. Order date, which is going to be set to the date time data type, and then we're just saying the primary key is going to be ID. So let's go ahead and add the foreign key restraints. Okay, so what we want to do is say foreign key, let's say customer ID, and then we want to specify its reference. So we want to say references will be to the customers table and then to the ID field. Okay, and then what we can do is copy that. We want to do the same thing for products. So this will be foreign key on product ID. References is going to be to the products table, to the ID field. Now before we run this, there's one more thing I want to do. For the date, the order date, I don't want to have to manually put that in. So we're going to set a default. So what we can do is just say default, and we want to say current timestamp. Okay, so that'll happen for us. We don't have to manually include the date and time. So, all right, so let's go ahead and run this. We'll click go. Okay, looks like it went okay. We'll click structure, and you can see we now have orders. Okay, if we click in orders and go to structure, notice that the product ID and the customer ID have a key icon. That's telling us that these are foreign key fields. Now the purpose of a foreign key field is so that we can prevent data corruption within our database, or just create an unstable database. So let's say we have this orders table, and we have an order that has a product ID of 3. Okay, well, we don't want to have this product ID of 3 and then in the products table not have that specific product with the ID of 3. All right, so it won't let us delete certain records that are needed for other records, if that makes sense, hopefully. All right, so that's why we need foreign key constraints. All right, so now we're going to take a look at another very important part of using relational databases, and that is table joins. All right, joins are used to combine rows from 2 or more tables based on a common field between them. All right, and there's different types of joins. We have an inner join, left and right joins, and a full join. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so before we can do any joins, we need to actually have some data in our orders and products table. So let's go ahead and go to products, and we're going to just add some data here. All right, so we're inserting some products here. Okay, we have a name and a price, and I just call them product 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then just some integers for price. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. Okay, we look at the structure. Actually want to go to browse, and you can see we have our products. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to go into orders, and I'm going to create some orders. Alright, so let's take a look at this. We're saying insert into orders, and we have three things we want to put in: order number, product ID, customer ID. Okay, now notice we don't have the order date because that has a default of the current timestamp. Alright, and if we look at this, we're just giving the order numbers 001 and then just going up by 1. Alright, and then we have our product IDs. You want to make sure these actually exist. Same thing with the customer IDs. Alright, so let's go ahead and click go. Alright, and if we go to our orders table, now you can see we have all of these orders. Now, if you want to fetch an order along with its information, if we were to just get from the orders table, this is all we could get, and this obviously means nothing to us as far as readability. So what we need to do is do some table joins. So let's go to SQL, and we're going to start with an inner join, which is probably the most popular, and what that does is it'll return all rows when there is at least one match in both tables. Alright, so let me give you an example. So we're going to say select. Now we're using two different tables, so we need to specify the table name along with the column name. So let's say we want to select customers dot first name. Okay, we want to get the customers dot last name, and then we also want the orders. We'll say orders dot ID, and let's also get orders dot order number. Okay, so the goal is to get the customer info along with the order number. Okay, so we want to say from customers. Alright, but we want to join in the orders table, so we're going to say inner join orders. Okay, then we want to say on, and then this is where we want to match them together. So we want customers dot ID to be equal to orders dot customer ID. Okay, these should match, and then let's just do order by let's see, we'll order by customers dot last name. Alright, so let's see what that gives us. Alright, so let's look down here, and you can see we have our first name, last name. We also have the ID of the order and the order number. Alright, actually, you know what? We probably don't want the ID. So let's take that out. And let's run go. And now we're just getting the actual order numbers. Alright, and you may want to order it by the order number. Okay, so if we run that, now you can see it's ordered by the order number. Now for a left join, that's going to return rows from the left table with the matching rows on the right table. So let's say select first name and we want orders dot order number. Alright, actually, you know what, let's also get the date. So orders dot order date. Alright, and then we're going to say from customers, and then we want to left join orders. Customers dot ID should be equal to orders dot customer ID. Okay, and then let's just do order by last name. Okay, let's go ahead and run that. Okay, and now you can see same thing. We're getting the first and last name with the order number, and we're also getting the order date and time. So now let's do a right join. All right, so actually what we'll do is let's specify orders dot order number. We want customers and let's see, this time we're going to say from orders. Okay, and then this will be a right join. We'll say right join customers on, I'm just going to switch these. And then let's do order by orders dot order number. Okay, so now you can see we have our order numbers and then the first and last name, and this is probably how you would want to do it. Now another thing you might want to do is bring in the product. Okay, we might want the product name, so that means that we have to join in products and orders. So let's go back to our SQL. We want to select orders dot order number. We want customers dot first name, customers dot last name, products dot name. Okay, so that's what we want. And then we're going to say from orders. Okay, then we want to inner join products on orders dot product ID and products dot ID. Okay, then we want to also join customers. Okay, for that we're going to say on orders dot customer ID equals customers dot ID. All right, and then we're just going to say order by order number. Orders dot order number. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. And there we go. So now our result here is pulling the data from 3 separate tables. Okay, we have the order number, which is coming from the orders table. First name and last name is coming from the customers table, and name is coming from the products table. So that's how you can join 3 tables, and of course you could do more than 3 if you wanted. Alright, so now we're going to take a quick look at aliases. Okay, aliases are used to give tables or columns a temporary name and make them more readable. Alright, so the column names for this table aren't too bad, but we may want first and last name to be formatted a little differently. Alright, so to do that, let's go to our SQL, and we're going to select, let's say, first name. And what you want to do is use the as keyword. So we'll say first name as. Now, if you're going to use two or more separate words, then you need to have quotes around them. So we want first space name. Okay, so that's that. And then we also want last name as last name. Okay, and then we'll say from customers. So let's go ahead and run that. And now you can see that the column headings here have changed to a more readable format. Now, another thing you may want to do is you may want to combine columns. All right, for instance, first and last name, you may want that to be returned in one column instead of 2 separate ones. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say Let's just get rid of all this. Now this is where we need to use concat. Okay, so we need to say select concat, and then in here we're going to specify first name and then comma, then we want a space in between them, and then last name. Alright, then we can do as, actually let's just say name, as name, and then we also want to grab the address, city, and state from customers. Alright, so let's run that. Okay, so now you can see we have a name column and it has their first and last name. Alright, now we may want to also join the address fields together and put them in a single column called address. So let's go back up here and we're going to do concat, and then we'll wrap these up. Okay, between each one, let's do that. Okay, let's try that. Oh, okay, so the heading isn't correct. Oh, I didn't do as. You would do as address. There we go. Okay, so we've turned it into just two columns, name and address. So you can see this can be very helpful. Now we can also use this for tables. So let me give you an example of that. Okay, so let's do select, we'll select o.id, and then let's do let's do order date. Okay, so this will be from the orders table. You'll see why I'm doing this in a second. And then let's do c dot first name, c dot last name, and then we're going to say from customers as C, and then also orders as O. So let's go ahead and run that. And there we go. We get the order ID and the date, and then the first and last name. Okay, so we can use aliases for tables and columns. Alright, so now we're going to look at aggregate functions in SQL. Okay, so there's a few of these. The first one I'm going to show you is average, or AVG. Okay, so for this, we can take a column and we can get the average. So let's do it with the age in the customers table. Actually, do we still have an age? Yes, we do. Okay, so let's go to SQL, and we're going to say select AVG, and then we need the column name. In this case, it's going to be age from customers. Okay, and if we run that, you can see that the average age is 37. So that's average, or AVG. Now let's take a look at count. So what we'll do here is we'll say select count, and let's say age from customers. Okay, if we run that, it gives us 5. Okay, there's 5 customers with an age in the customers table. Okay, we also have max. So if we want to find the maximum age, we can do that, which is 64. And we also obviously can do min for the minimum age, which is 20. Another one is sum. So if we want to get the sum of all ages, we can do that, which is 185. Not sure what that could possibly do for us, but you can do it. Now another thing we could do is we can use the group by statement. And what that does is it's used in conjunction with an aggregate function to group the result set by one or more columns. So what I'm going to do is just very quickly, I'm going to just make one of these ages the same as another. So let's say 33. We'll go ahead and change 45 to 33. Alright, and then let's go to our SQL. And what we're going to do is say select age, and let's use count age from customers, and we'll say where age is greater than 30, and then let's do group by age. Okay, so if we run that, what it's doing is it's finding all the ages above 30, and then it's giving us the count of each one. So remember, we have 2 with 33, so we get 2 here. Okay, and 1 for 64. And we could take out that where if we wanted to, and that gives us all the ages and the amount of records with that age. Okay, so that's group by. And another thing we could do is, let's say we only want the ages that have 2 or more results. Okay, so what we can do is take the same thing but just add on to it having. Okay, so we'll say having account for age that is greater than or equal to 2. Alright, so if we run that, you can see we only get 33 because that's the only age that's seen 2 or more times. Okay, so back to some of the more simple aggregate functions. We have uCase. So let's say we'll say select uCase, and let's pass in here first name from customers, and you probably know what this is going to do. Okay, it's going to put all of the names in uppercase, and of course we could select other things here as well. If we wanted to say last name, okay, it's going to give us the last name too, but only the first name is uppercase. Alright, now we also have lowercase, so we could do lcase, and let's put this one as uCase. And there we go. So this is lcase, this is uCase. Alright, so I think that's going to be it, guys. I mean, that's the fundamentals of SQL. Now there's going to be some stuff that I didn't cover, some more advanced stuff, but I really wanted to keep this video under an hour and basically just give you what you need to be able to administer a database. So if you like this video, please leave a like, please subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and thanks again, and I'll see you next time.